Alright, hello everybody, my name is Resins22, and welcome to the very first Fireside Balance Chat for Forgotten Empires. Forgotten Empires is the design team behind the new Age of Empires 2 expansions on Steam. We'll be discussing all things Age of Empires 2 balance, including the original 1.0c balance, changes in the expansions, as well as everyone's thoughts on the new Rise of the Rajas DLC. Today I have the honor of being joined by Cysion, the lead designer and project manager at Forgotten Empires. And in addition, we're also going to be joined by two of the top Age of Empires 2 expert players, both of which with a lot of experience in the new expansions. And those two are going to be TheViper and TaToH. They will be giving their thoughts on the state of balance. So without further ado, I'm going to add them all to a call and we'll get this show started. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Alright, hello everybody, and welcome.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hey guys, what's up?
So just to make sure that everyone knows everyone's voice, would you guys each mind saying hello and then who you are?
Yeah, sure. I'm Cysion, the lead designer at Forgotten Empires.
Go TaToH. I am TaToH, and I am Roberto, most known as TaToH in LC.
And this voice is the voice of TheViper.
Huzzah, huzzah. So yes, thank you so much for joining us today, guys. Today we'll be discussing all sorts of things related to balance. And, first off, I'd have to say that I really enjoyed watching your guys' games during the Rise of the Rajas tournaments that we've seen so far. It's very interesting seeing how the top expert players actually tackle all of the new changes that the expansions have, and that's going to be a big topic today. So, first, for those of us who are not super familiar with you two, TaToH and TheViper, would you guys mind just telling us a little bit about yourselves and your history just playing Age of Empires 2? A quick little intro. Yeah.
Well, as I said, my name is Roberto. I'm from Spain, and I have been playing AOC since 2002. I have taken a long breaks during this time, but the last time I came back to AOC, it was on the first Nation Cup from the China sponsor. I think it was in 2014. And from there, I have played non-stop.
All right, my name is Örjan. I'm also known as TheViper. I guess I'm recognized as one of the better players of this game. I was playing this game when I was really young, like 9-10 years old, but I didn't understand much then, of course. But I came back in like early 2010 and then joined the competitive scene around 2011. And since then I've been competing, won some events, and nowadays I stream a lot and create a lot of content for YouTube. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment.
All right, and thank you so much for taking the time as well to introduce yourselves. So first, I think we're going to start with, I think if we're going to have any sort of balance discussion, we need to discuss first the original balance in 1.0c, so the CD version. The metagame in 1.0c is definitely a lot more defined than the metagame that we have in the new DLCs. So if we're looking at just the original game, what do you two believe are the biggest balance issues in 1.0c?
Go Viper.
All right, TaToH. Yeah, like you said, AOC is the meta is kind of set there, right? So, but then again, it did take a long time before the meta people realized what were the OP things in the meta, right? So, I would say the current problems right now is that Vikings, for example, on water is like there's no other civs that have any chance at all against Vikings, and also on like land map types of maps, especially in 1v1s, you have Aztecs, Huns, Mayans being like the clearly dominant civs. And also, like walls, towers, buildings in general, they serve and give you so much protection. I mean, the list goes on and on for things I think are wrong about the game. So, I don't know. What do you think, TaToH?
Well, as you said, Vikings is the most broken civilization on water. I think this is the strongest far ahead. And I will add that maybe the sling is a problem in AOC, in the 1.0C, and also the walls, because I think that they are super quick created, building, and I will say that they give a lot of protection.
Okay, so I hear that. So I've so far heard things such as water balance, particularly the Vikings being very dominant. I heard some wall building. So I guess the first thing I suppose we should talk about a little bit is the issues with walls. So, what exactly do you think is the problem with walls being so strong in 1.0C, and what do you think? And how do you feel about the changes that we made to walling in the expansion? So we'll start with you, the Viper. Do you think our changes have addressed the walling issue, and what are the problems with walls?
I think before we go to Orion, I think it's good to set the stage for everybody and like let's see what exactly changed to walls in all the expansions. Might be good for all the viewers because we've been adding balance changes to the game for many years now, and some people definitely lost track of all the changes we did. So for walls, they now take longer to build, and the stone walls in the feudal age they lost half of their hit points. So those are the two big changes to walling. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Viper.
Yeah, so well, I think you've done a good job addressing them, because in the current AOC, I mean the 0.10C, like the stone walls, if you have your base stone wall in feudal age, then there's no way anyone will ever break through and break into your base. And I don't think that's a good thing that you can just place down a couple of cheap walls that don't take long to build and then be completely safe. So I think like you've done, halving their HP, it's a really good change, as well as it's both more expensive and takes longer to build. So I do think that's the right approach and right way to go. Now, I haven't played too much and experienced too much with aggression against the stonewalls, because honestly, people don't stonewall that much anymore. So I guess that's kind of a clear proof that it's actually working. So I haven't really gotten the idea of like seeing exactly how strong they are, but I did play one game with Doubt where I stonewalled. I thought I was safe, thought I was fine, but no, he had some men-at-arms, some archers, and he just managed to break through. Simply as that. So I really like that you can't feel completely safe with stonewalls anymore. So yeah, I think that's a very good. You guys have done a very good job at addressing that issue.
All right, excellent.
There's one
Really
thing
glad to
I
hear it.
always thought, like, I think you on forums you even said a few times, like, just move stone walls up to the castle age. Like, screw them. Like, just move them. Do you think we need to go that far, or you think we can find a balance like this?
I don't think that's a good idea. Like I've said it probably out of frustration a couple of times, but but I mean, like team games would change so much. Take a map like Baltic, for example, where the meta in general is for everyone to go water. Imagine if you're a flank and you can't stonewall in feudal age and you're fully commit on water, and then suddenly you have knights attacking your base and stuff. It's like I feel like just removing stonewalls completely would be it would kind of cause new problems, you know. So I don't know if that's the way to go, but I feel like just like what you've done so far is a very good start, at least. Until I'll let you know in a couple of months if it's just I feel like you have done a very good job so far.
All right, well, what about you, TaToH? What do you think about our changes to walling? Do you think that it's a step in the right direction? I know you've been playing a lot of Age of Empires HD recently.
Yeah, I think I agree with the change. As Viper said, the Stonewall is now a bit stronger than a house, but it's not like in normal OC, where it takes like 10 minutes to break in if you want. And by that time, the enemy can wall behind 3 times. So I will say that the only change I will make is to the palisades to maybe lower the HP a bit. Because now it's 250, and I think that maybe 200 will be better. But yeah, overall, I think the changes are really in a good way. I really like it.
All right, well, I'm really glad to hear that the changes to walling have felt like a step in the right direction for AOC. We're trying to make sure that the metagame just feels a lot more diverse and that just a wider variety of strategies are encouraged. And when you have something like stone walls being as strong as they are in 1.0c that can end up like homogenizing a lot of strategies, and it can be frustrating to play against, as sometimes players feel as though there's really nothing they can do once the Great Walls start coming up. And I think that one of the main things that I see as being relatively controversial in the original 1.0c balance is going to be the dominance of slinging. So let's start with you, TaToH. What are your thoughts on slinging? Do you believe it's a problem balance-wise? And what do you think of our nerfs in the expansion? But I guess before we get into your answer, Cysion, would you like to talk a little bit about the changes that we made to slinging?
Slinging, indeed. This is always very, very tricky problem to tackle. So what we did is we drastically increased the research times of banking and coinage. They are still in the same ages, so that did not change. There have been some balance patches that changed the ages, but we couldn't do that because otherwise there is always the risk of breaking scenarios and campaigns, which is territory we don't want to venture in. So we increased the research time sharply. Like it takes 70 seconds now to research those texts. And I think we increased the price. It's almost double. Let's say 75% more, something like that.
Now, let me quickly chime in and explain briefly. So for those of you who are not aware, slinging is an interesting strategy in Age of Empires 2. Well, interesting is subjective. The idea is that you build a market early on, you hang out in the feudal age, you build as many layers of walls as you can, and you basically just focus the most of the game on just tributing your teammates' resources. Why is it called slinging? Well, it's because you can sort of slingshot your teammates through the ages really quickly by funneling money into them, and then that way you create a super player that is, hopefully capable of destroying several members of the enemy team and really leveraging all the extra money to make up for the fact that otherwise you would be down a player. And it's actually a very effective competitive strategy. So let's talk a little bit about that. TaToH, what are your thoughts on slinging in 1.0c, and do you think our changes have adequately addressed the issue?
Well, I think that the sling is super powerful in the high-level team games, as we have seen in all the tournaments. So about the chains, I will say that increasing the time doesn't make any difference, because when you start slinging, your teammate is going to castle it, so it doesn't make a difference if you start slinging when he's on feudal or when he's on the way to castle it. So overall, I think that doesn't make any big difference. Maybe a bit the fact that it's more expensive. But still, I think the biggest problem for the sling is the taxes, because I think that 30% is not enough. I think we have seen in a tournament that they moved coinage to castle age and banking to imperial age, and the taxes was set at 50%, if I recall. And still, they were slinging, and slinging was a good strategy. So, in my opinion, I think that maybe increasing the taxes in feudal age and moving coinage and banking will be better in that term, because the main problem for the sling is, like, even that these are small resources, you get a lot of map control because of the because you are ahead in technology, and in feudal age you don't have a way to defend from that rush, while in your castle age you will have more defenses against that sling.
I actually have a question there. Like, is slinging? I've seen it way too many times in 4v4 games, sometimes even 3v3 games. Is it also something you often see in 2v2 games, or is that not a thing? I'm not sure who has the most experience here, Viper or TaToH, with that kind of setting.
Well, I mean, 2v2s, there's more kind of a gentleman's agreement there to not sling when we play usually. And there haven't been many 2v2 tournaments, so to say, so you can't really tell. But I'm pretty sure if slinging was untouched and there was 2v2 tournaments with like high prizes where people really want to win, then I'm pretty sure you'd see one of the players pretty much sling every game.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
I did not expect that actually. I kind of thought that 2v2s were more like two 1v1s that kind of blended into each other at some point, but I did not really expect Sling there. But yeah,
Oh, it's just like the one player can just simply do a drush and wall behind the drush, for example. And once you're walled, and then you just go to Foolish, instantly place the stone walls behind the palisade walls or houses or whatever, and then just start slinging. The tech advantage and just like how much a sling speeds up everything is so insanely strong, and I think it's even stronger in a 2v2 actually.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think
actually, you made a very good point there. What you brought up there, like you drush and then you wall, and actually the wall changes we discussed earlier were part of the slinging nerf. Almost like they were designed for that. So, yeah, it's a nice side effect. That's if you are the how do you call that, the slingshot or the slingy, the slinger. My English is failing me at the moment. Like if he needs to wall up, it's so much slower now. It can easily take a minute or 2 minutes even extra to wall up with the nerfs to walls. And especially if you stay in feudal, your walls are half the strength of what they should be. So,
I was going to bring that up when, like, indirectly the walling nerf actually nerfs slinging as well. But you can also put it the other way. Indirectly, it might nerf the guys trying to defend against the sling as well. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So it kind of goes both ways, which is, I don't know, it's kind of tricky to decide who has the most benefits from the stonewall nerfs in a slinging case.
Absolutely.
But, so it's very tricky to deal with slinging. But yeah, I agree with what TaToH said earlier. I don't think changing how long the research itself for the banking or coinage does anything. But yeah, making them more expensive, it helps a little bit. But in the long run, I still feel like it won't make that much of a difference because it's only a one-time cost, right? So yeah, slinging is a really tricky. Like you see most tournaments these days, they have rules against slinging. Even sometimes they're completely forbidden. So I think that itself tells you how strong a sling can be.
Yeah, that was basically what I was going to say. Is that I think of all the balance problems in the original Age of Empires, I think that slinging is maybe one of the biggest ones. In that it's just something that's universally agreed upon as it can be very, very detrimental to competitive play. That we've seen all sorts of tournaments have their own custom balance patch or rules that just strictly forbid slinging. And I think that speaks volume for how powerful the strategy actually is. One thing I did want to ask you, TheViper, is what kind of... So the general consensus between you and TaToH seems to be that our changes are a step in the right direction, but they don't go far enough. What do you think needs to be done, assuming that we can't really move coinage and banking up in age, otherwise it will end up breaking scenarios and whatnot?
Well, first of all, I just need to point out that both me and TaToH we like to play aggressive, so we dislike walls. There are other players with defensive playstyles that probably disagree with the stonewall changes.
Right.
So it's like, keep that in mind as well. This is, me and TaToH are kind of on the same wavelength there when it comes to opinions, I think. So there are probably another side of the discussion as well, potentially. But I think I agree with what TaToH mentioned. I think just raising the taxes pretty much is the best way to deal with it, because I don't see, like you said, you can't move them up or down in age. So I feel like the only change you can potentially make is making it more expensive or increasing the taxes. And with the expenses being just a one-time upgrade, I think that increasing the taxes is probably the best solution here.
What value do you think the taxes should be set to? Roughly.
I feel like with the they've made some changes with this in the recent tournaments, right? And I think they've had the taxes even as much as 50% on coinage, like before, even after coinage is researched even. I can't say for sure. I don't remember exactly. Maybe TaToH remembers better, but yeah, I think even that high, because even like a 30% discount on your sling is like, not discount, that's the wrong word, but like paying 30% of your resources to no one. I mean, what I'm trying to say is if your opponent receives penalty, 70% of the sling, it's still incredibly powerful, just because of how it slingshots you into like a a technology further than the opponents.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I did want to briefly mention, since you brought this up, about the walling changes not necessarily being universally agreed upon, because of course there are plenty of players who favor a more defensive strategy. So the goal there is to make sure that those strategies are actually still viable, just not overly dominant. That way players with a defensive playstyle can still, try and take advantage of that and play to those strengths without it really, homogenizing the metagame. But with slinging, we find that it's such an insanely powerful strategy that it may require more changes than we already have. Do either of you have any last comments on slinging before we move on to the next topic?
Well, I can say that I haven't really played team games or been part of slinging in the Forgotten Empires or with these changes. Mm-hmm. So these are all theories of mine when I say like what I think it's still not enough. But you never know how a game. If we once suddenly see a 4v4 team game tournament or something, and we'll actually put this more into use, we might discover that slinging actually isn't that OP anymore, or things like this. So it's a little bit hard to say just now, but from experience, from point OC, I do still think that slinging is too strong.
So is this the type of thing where it should be really nerfed heavily in the feudal age, but we shouldn't really be too concerned about, say, the strength of banking, or is it just the strength of it at all points in the game?
I mean, like the thing is the kickstart from feudal age is where it really kicks in, right? For like when you get resources as you go up to castle age, and then like suddenly you can afford 2 TCs right away. You can afford ramps, you can afford 3 stable knight production, and all these things all at once. And at the same time hit like Imperial before 30 minutes, you're just so far ahead of everyone else. So probably slinging from feudal age is the biggest issue. But if you don't touch it in castle age as well, then you'll see players do like a 3 TC castle age boom into a full sling, which is in some cases even more powerful than a feudal age sling. So I feel like it needs to be touched at all points pretty much.
Okay, so that's something that we'll definitely have to look into then, especially with the upcoming Escape Gaming 2v2 tournament. We don't want it to end up being a wall drush and slingfest for sure. So I think that while there are some boats on the screen, it might be a good segue to start talking about water balance, which is something that in the expansions on Steam we've made probably the most changes to out of everything. It's been a hot topic of debate, and basically to provide a little bit of context, in the original 1.0c water balance, I believe that the water gameplay is actually very skill intensive and interesting to watch, because it favors such like tight, careful galley micro, which I believe is very interesting. However, we find that the other ships, like fire ships and demolition ships, have perhaps too niche of an application, and they don't really see that much play. Like, fire ships are really good when your opponent has a small amount of ships, but water maps can be very snowball-y, because once your opponent has like a mass death ball of galleys, it can be very difficult to actually remove them. So we tried to address this with a couple of changes, and Cysion, would you like to explain a little bit about the thought process behind our water balance changes and what we've done so far?
Right, so the main train of thought was that because you have this triangle, this water triangle in the castle age onwards, you kind of have galleys, fire galleys, and demos, and that's a relatively fine rock paper scissors system. But because you start in the feudal age, everybody starts up massing galleys. By the time you get to the castle age, everybody has galleys, just upgrades the galleys, and no matter how many fires or demos you make, it's very, very hard to break that. Like, if you have 1,000 rocks, one piece of paper is not going to break that. So then the rock paper scissors system is in shambles. So what we did to kind of break that is introduce fire galleys and demolition rafts in the feudal age. So you can kind of have that system right from the start of the game. And that's kind of the thing that we're seeing now in HD, the expansions.
All right, and so with the new ships, the goal is, again, to try and bring back that combat triangle that the devs, the original developers, Ensemble Studios, was talking about, and that was kind of the original intention for water balance, this idea that fire ships are a way to beat mass galleons, and then demolition ships are a way to beat mass fire ships, and all that is very, very important, we believe, to the health of the game. So let's talk a little bit about what your guys' thoughts are on our changes and if they actually addressed the issue. So, TaToH, what do you think of the original 1.0C water balance and our changes?
Well, we all know that in the original AOC, Wallace was the unit dominant, and fires were almost used on some scenarios where you had to go fast castle and make some fires to try, most of the time, not to win water, just try to kill the fears. So I really love now the water balance. I think in African Kingdom it was a bit broken because of the demos. The demos were with the blast rod, it was book or something, and they were like incredibly strong. And also the fires were a bit ahead of the galleon, so we were ending from war galleys, where galleon wars in normal AC to fast fires is on the African Kingdom. But right now in the rest of Rajas with the new change, I think that is really close to be balanced. I really like it. I think that you need some upgrades with the both, like for example, fire galley is gonna be stronger in the early feudal, but in the long term galleys we're gonna have a bit of advantage because when you get fletching they have more damage, and also in Castle Age fires are coming back with careening, they are stronger than the war galleys, and then in Imperial is a bit balanced. That if you have both units is a really strong combination.
Okay. So it sounds like we're kind of making a step in the right direction there, but we always do have to watch very carefully on the actual stats and balance of the new ships themselves. TaToH, do you believe that, does the Feudal Age water balance, does that feel like it's set up correctly in the expansions, or do you think we need to make changes, for example, to fire galleys?
Well, I have not played against. Well, I think I have only played against Viper in the Christmas series on high level 1 versus 1. But in team games, I feel like if I want to go work galleys, I have to rush the fletching. Mm-hmm. And when you have fletching, you cannot micro the galleys. And
does that feel fine?
Yeah, I think. Well, maybe it makes like advantage for the guy that is making fire galleys, but at the same time he must not lose the galleys. So you can, like when you have the galleys, you can mix some demos, and you will have the timer. Like you will decide where you want to engage, because he will have to risk. So if he loses the unit, he will be in a really bad position because you will snowball.
Okay, so that sounds pretty promising then, because that's something that's just very difficult for us to make sure that we get the values correct. And of course, that's something that we're monitoring very closely, and we've already made some fairly recent changes to the water balance. Cysion ended up tweaking the fire galley feudal age armor has been reduced a lot, and the demolition raft has also had some tweaks. So this is the type of thing that we'll definitely get more refined over time, but that sounds very promising. And I would like to ask the Viper as well, do you have any thoughts on the current state of water balance in the expansions?
Yeah, I've had a small portion of water games, but from what I've experienced so far, I would say that it's definitely much more diverse than the .0C water play that we have seen so far. I do think in smaller number, fire galleys are definitely better than galleys, but I guess that's a natural cycle of how it's supposed to be. So that's good. And once you get up to like a bigger galley number, then they are better again than fire galleys. So I feel like that's a good step. And also the demo ships are actually useful, which is a difference
Yay!
for me. I'm not used to that. So that's very, very nice. I like the rock, paper, scissors. It's much more balanced now, but at the same time, I feel like the toughest thing to balance is when there are age differences, right? So a feudal age player against a cast age player. Like for when me and Doubt practiced Bog Islands, right away I got the impression that, okay, if you get fire ships, then there's no way there's no chance for a normal galley army to beat that, because they don't really have any place to run, and fire ships I feel like their armor is just so strong against the normal feudal age galleys. So I feel like I would say that I think fire ships are too strong against feudal galleys, but at the same time, if you get to a really strong galley count, I think they are stronger again. But then again, it's all about the differences of maps and how fast can the other guy fast castle, for example, to get those fire ships out. So there's it's like the whole fine tuning of that. But in general, the balance is much better, and you see also fast fire ships in Imperial Age, which is a great thing. Because I remember me and TaToH had a game on Team Islands in the Christmas Masters series, where it was a late game Imperial fight on water, and both of us were mixing in fire ships, galleons, and the second one of us was not making fire ships. The other guy pushed him back, right? So fire ships, like making the right mix of fire ships and galleons, felt like it was really important. So like you couldn't make just one unit, which is pretty much what we've done for years now on the OC balance. But demo ships weren't used that much in late game though. But that's fair. That's fine.
So, as the demo ships themselves, do we feel like the demolition raft, demo ship, and heavy demo? Do we feel that those are all roughly where they need to be balance-wise? To either?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. They counter fire ships pretty heavily, and if you get in reach of galleys, they do good damage as well. But you're not supposed to, right? Because they're not supposed to counter galleys, so that's completely fine.
Because one way that might address the strength of fire galleys just a little bit maybe would be if demo rafts... I'm not exactly sure what could be done there, but as long as they're not countering galleys, I suppose it's a thought.
I think...
Yeah, it is like Viper said, we made them so weak in the feudal age. Like, I think with 6 arrows you can pick them off, demo rafts, so that is definitely the intended behavior. They feel super weak, but yeah, that's kind of what they are. They're a little raft with a bomb strapped to it, and that's it.
They're like a high risk, high reward kind of unit, you know. So
yeah.
they might pay off way beyond what they're supposed to, or they might do nothing, right? So that's a cool thing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sounds really promising too. As the changes to water balance were also some of the riskier ones that we've done. And I think that it's actually in a very good state right now. It's obviously something that can always be improved and we'll be monitoring, but yeah, and we'll continue making changes. Yeah?
One thing I still wanted to bring in on that, like we've had here, like we're not really sure, like there is no consensus of like this is the way to go. Like you have to go this unit, you have to go, you play like this. This is the best unit in that age. That consensus is not there, it seems. And also, I was reading the chat while we were speaking, and there was no consensus there either. So I'm quite happy about that. So either it's quite balanced, or people still have a lot of fun figuring out what actually is the strongest strategy. So I'm happy to see that.
Oh yeah.
I think on that point it's more map dependent rather than the actual balance of the units, because on certain maps fires will be stronger, and then again on certain maps galleys are stronger. So, but I mean that's how it's always going to be in Age of Empires. So that's completely fine as well.
Yeah, that is absolutely fine. That makes the game so good.
Oh yeah.
Variation.
We always encourage players to keep an open mind, especially with all the new changes, as it does take players quite some time to figure out exactly what the stronger builds are. So we like to see that diversity. And speaking of diversity, this perhaps could be a good segue into our next question, which is, so in 1.0c, this is something that both TheViper and TaToH mentioned earlier. We're seeing a little bit of an issue with a civilization variety at the competitive level in terms of picks. Of course, the Vikings on water being, I think, everyone's go-to. This civ is insanely strong. What do you two think about the lack of variety in civilization choices in 1.0c? And do you guys feel as though our changes have addressed them? But before that, let me briefly ask Cysion. So we added unique technologies, for example, to all of the... So every civ has 2 unique techs now. They have one in the Castle Age, and a lot of balance changes were done. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, Cysion?
So the idea was that for or at least that was the idea. It didn't work out for every civ, but the general idea was that each old civilization had like one new thing to kind of enhance their strategies, to make them either a bit more viable or to expand on them. I would have to go check the list to see. To go over them exactly. For example, the Franks, they have a unique tech that just enhances their existing strategies. It's making cavalry better. On the other hand, they had a balance change that gives them a bonus in the Dark Age. So that makes all their strategies a little bit better. So that opens up the civ. For example, the Teutons, they have a Castle Age tech, Ironclad, which makes their seats in the Castle Age better. So it kind of tries to expand and enhance strategies rather than narrowing it down.
And that's the general goal, is we want to open up a wider variety of civilizations to just be chosen at the competitive level, because we find that even though 1.0c can be very fun at a casual level in terms of civ variety, at a competitive level things feel very homogenized. And so I would like to start by asking TaToH, what do you think about the variety of civilizations in 1.0c, and do you think we've done a better job sort of evening out that power level?
Yeah, well, as we have seen, the meta is there, and we always see the same civilization on 0.0. So I really like some of the new unique technologies for the civilizations. Like the other day, I was trying to go with the Saracen ally and going for obsidian arrows with Mayans, and I was destroying the castle in 5 suits with the arbalest, and it was quite fun. I think that gives some really funny scenarios and really different. But at the same time, I feel like most of the unique technologies, even that they are available on Castle Age, they are done in Imperial. And maybe I feel like some are, they should be more expensive.
Which ones do you think should be more expensive? Do you have an example?
Let me check. Ask TheViper, and I will let you know later. Because okay. I don't remember.
No problem. But that's good. It sounds like the diversity is getting there. And personally, I feel like adding the new Castle Age technologies, for example, to all the old civs, and then giving them a bunch of balance changes sort of breathes new life into the game for me. And it's something that I've really enjoyed exploring. So to you, TheViper, could you tell us a little bit about... Could you list some of the civs that you think are just really, really dominant in 1.0c, and then give us your thoughts on if you think we've made the metagame a bit more diverse?
All right, so there's a meta on 0.0c. In team games, larger team games, there are usually you only have 5-6 viable choices, pretty much, mostly 5. In the 1v1s, you're usually limited to like 1 or 2 clearly better civs for that specific map. So if you have the option to pick your civ, you're like always going to see those specific civs, right? And that's the problem when you have how many civs available, right? So some of the stronger ones, I can say just for team games, Vikings for water maps, must. Huns for water maps, pretty much a must. You have Japanese, for example. And then for land maps, mines are usually a clear choice. You have Chinese with their farm bonus. They can be good on like nomad types of maps. Huns as well. For land, Huns are like the complete overall civ, right? They're strong on everything pretty much, besides nomad games. Just in general, these civs, pretty much they're like, the worst part is they're similar. You have the best civs in 1v1s also being the best civs in team games, which I guess makes sense to some degree, but it clearly indicates that the balance isn't there. But regarding changes, there's been so many small tweaks like to the game through the Forgotten Empires and all the way to the Age of Rajas, and I think like all of those, like when I looked through the list earlier, I didn't see one change where I thought, okay, that's clearly a bad change, right? So I'm definitely agreeing with a lot of the changes and think they're a step in the right direction to make more civs viable, and I would love to just see more of it and actually see it used in actual tournaments, because like honestly speaking, I'm really bored of the meta game that is on Age of Empires: The Conquerors, and I would love to, even if it turns out it's still a little bit imbalanced, just experimenting and figuring it out, right, would be so refreshing for the game as a whole. I feel like so. Personally, I think you guys, the changes are positive. I didn't see a change that I disagreed with, and
phew.
I would love to see more and just like experiment with it and figure out what I disagree with is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, well, that's
fair enough.
That's great to hear. Is it's taken a lot of iteration, and there's always room for improvement. But we're very happy with the the direction that the metagame is going. So, I guess one quick thing before we move on to the next set of questions is to TaToH. Do you have a favorite new unique technology or change we made to one of the old civilizations?
One new technology for the old civilization.
Yeah, or just a balance change that we made that you really liked.
Oh, I really like the fact that you don't need castle to make missionaries,
Oh, yeah.
longboats, turtles. I really like it. I really like it.
All right, and the Viper, do you have one as well? That just a change that you thought was really fun that you enjoy?
I don't know. I'm more like I like to look at the whole picture, and I think just like the general tweaks here and there are very good. But of course, the nerfs to health on buildings and walls in general, that's more my kind of thing.
All right. By the way, so the Viper said that there weren't really any changes right now that he particularly disagrees with. TaToH, are there any changes that we have made to the old civilizations that you're not a huge fan of?
Only one, I think, and it's the that you decrease the now the elite scheme is cheaper.
Ah.
Yep.
Could you
That's
tell us a
really
little
better
bit?
recent change.
Could you tell us a little bit more about why you don't like that change?
Well, because that I feel like screens are used mostly because when you are in a defensive stance, and most of them it's like a castle age upgrade, but you are going to use them in Imperial as well. So I feel like lowering it helps the defensive player a bit more.
Mhm.
And well, as Viper said, we are not really happy with the defensive players. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Indeed, it is kind of a defensive upgrade. It kind of makes the game a bit longer, I believe. If everybody, if the attacker goes on gold heavy units, you will be able to like keep the pressure up while still collecting the food to go to the next stage. But defending with skirmishers kind of delays the inevitable. I mean, you're in disadvantage when you make skirmishers, but it delays your economy a bit if you do so. So making them more viable indeed benefits the defender and makes the game a bit longer. I totally see where you're coming from there.
I would like to say I support that because skirmishers in general, like the difference between a normal skirmisher and an elite skirmisher, the difference is so massive that the upgrade itself being this much cheaper, which it is, it's what 50 wood cheaper and 60 gold, and that's pretty massive. So I would like to jump in and say that I agree with TaToH there. It's a really strong upgrade.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the type of thing where the upgrade cost was maybe reduced slightly too much. Those are things we'll keep in mind, and that's why I'm glad we asked. And so, on to the next topic. Basically, this is something that we were talking about before, which is that the new expansions have just quite a lot of changes in them. It's not something that you can just sit down, play one game, and immediately discover all of them. So we would like to ask you to how it feels, basically, to play them. Does it feel like it's too big of a difference? Is it fun or not fun? And, of course, I think that... Oh yeah, and are the changes easy to understand, necessary? The Viper, how does it feel to play on the new expansions?
Well, it's always going to be Age of Empires, regardless of what you do. The small tweaks here and there doesn't change the feel of the game in any way. So for me personally, it's still Age of Empires to me. The only thing it's more refreshing to me because of the changes, the new civilizations and everything. And we have had, like I've said before, we've had the same meta game now for so many years. that yeah, definitely it's very refreshing, and I really enjoy a lot playing playing competitive games on the new expansions.
I'm really glad to hear that. Tato, how does it feel for you to play on the new expansions?
Well, I think that playing more than 1,000 games will answer that, but I think that it's really fun because it refreshes a lot. It's refreshing. Something like it's not a meta game yet, so you can see way different combinations, really funny scenarios as well, as I said, and it's like every game is different. It's true that I play with mostly not that high level players on HT, so but still I really like the new expansions, the new content, even that there are maybe some unbalanced chains, but still if we can, I mean, if you are going, guys are going to work on that, it's gonna be really nice.
All right, glad to hear it. So, this, of course, brings me to the next question that we had, which is how important. I guess we've all covered this a little bit, but how important do you two think it is that we, keep making occasional changes to keep the metagame from going stale? And is the relationship between players and developers key here? So basically, keeping that open communication. Tato, do you think it's important that we occasionally make changes to keep the metagame fresh?
Well, I think that it depends on the time between the change, but if you are probably changing some unbalanced problems, there gonna be other units that gonna be stronger, and it's gonna always be like a cycle. So I guess that changing time to time can be nice, but overall it's gonna take a while with all the new civilizations to understand what is the meta game, the new meta game, and what are the strongest civilizations. And I think that with the new civilization as well, there are going to be way different combos, and it's not going to be like in normally I see that the fourth civilization is the best for Arabia or something like the four new civilization for water. Yeah.
Okay, so, well, that's good to hear. The Viper as well, do you think it's important that we continue to just make changes to keep the metagame fresh?
Well, it depends. If the changes are just to keep the metagame fresh, then I don't know if I agree with that. But I think making the changes to balance the things that are obviously imbalanced, that I agree with.
Okay.
Because that also helps keep the metagame fresh. Because the more balanced the game is, the more options you leave open, right? For different civs to be involved and for different unit combos and everything. So I think more like it's not to make changes to keep it fresh. It's just keep balancing out things that clearly turn out to be overpowered, and that contributes to keeping the meta fresh and open and a lot of different viable options for the civs.
That was a very good point, and I also believe that change for the sake of change is potentially. I think that the goal is basically to just make balanced changes because they're necessary. That's basically the message that I'm getting here. And of course, for all things, the goal is to just keep that communication open between the developers and community, and that's why we're here today. And I suppose this is also a decent segue into the next question, which we'll throw to Cysion, the lead designer and project manager. So there are, of course, balance changes coming, because we just had the Rise of the Rajas come out, which I've been thoroughly enjoying. However, some of the new civilizations, particularly the Malay, have been feeling very strong. So I would like to ask you, Cysion, what are some of the changes that players should be expecting in the upcoming balance patch?
Well, I actually would like to throw it to Viper and TaToH straight away. Like, if there's one change from the new civs, you've played them quite a bit now. Like, if there's one thing that pops out at this point, what would you say that needs to be changed? Is there anything that you would say that needs to be changed, Viper?
Well, I'll go straight for the Malay. On water maps, they're gonna be completely overpowered against any other civ, even Vikings. simply because of their advancing bonus, which is I think that's way too strong at the moment. Now their tech tree in general for land maps doesn't make it too overpowered on land maps, but I think for water maps alone, that upgrade is going to be just out of this world.
Yep. And I do expect the same answer from you, Tato, in a way.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, but like I will say that battle elephants, elite battle elephants, are really, really strong.
Oh, okay. That has always been a tricky one to judge, because the tournaments we've seen so far are 1v1, and then heavy cavalry is usually quite expensive to do, so a bit tricky to judge. But I think with the upcoming 2v2 tournament, we will be a bit wiser on that, and I do expect some changes to battle elephants as well. Actually, the players in the chat, the viewers, sorry, in the chat have been asking on the balance changes as well. I'd like to go over a few right now, real quick, actually. So the Malai are absolutely the strongest ones. The age up bonus, we would like to turn back a little bit. Like now they go twice as fast, 100% faster upgrade time at the next age. We're going to reduce that to 80%. We're going to remove the cheaper fishing ships. And then the battle elephants will be a little bit cheaper for the Malai. So I think that already addresses, hopefully, the biggest concerns of the Malay there. Oh, and of course the harbors. See people chatting about those. What are your thoughts about the harbors? I don't think we've seen them that much yet, but...
Well, I played one game with the harbors, and
Oh, I remember that game.
Oh my God. I had a lot of fun with that, but I don't think I mean, it's too strong on water for sure. They have the range. Actually, I think their damage output necessarily isn't too strong, but the fact that their range is 10, 7 plus 3, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's the range is just it's too big. Like they can hit. If there's like a small choke and you have docks on each side, then they're like it's impossible to pass there unless you have like twice the army of the other guy, because they pretty much serve as extra military, right? So I think just I think the range needs to be addressed, and I'm not too sure about the damage, but I mean if the range is changed, then maybe the damage doesn't have to be changed too much. But I also want to just quickly shout in that I think 80% is still overpowered for the advancing thing.
I actually wanted to sketch that number, like give some context, because the chat had exactly the same reaction as you. Like 80, that's not enough.
Yeah,
it should be 8%,
in my opinion. but 80.
I understand. This is absolutely a bonus that sounds ridiculous. I totally understand. Even at 80, it sounds a lot. So the reason that we're going with 80 at this point, I mean, we can make changes next month again if it's still too much, is because it's their only economical bonus once we remove the fishing ships, the cheaper fishing ships. And we did a few tests to compare, like, how much does that actually compare to other civilizations? And we compared it to the Celtic bonus, Woods 15% faster. So the kind of way that the faster up bonus for Malay works is that you essentially have more villagers. You can wait a little longer, create more villagers, then click up, and then you're still in the feudal age or in the next stage at the same time as your opponents. And that kind of makes the bonus so strong. And we kind of landed at 80%, because at 80%, it is very, very similar. Like the gain in villagers is very similar to the gain you would make with a standard economical bonus, with the difference that for Malay it just runs out very early. Once you had that boost, that initial boost, it's over. Celts have faster woods all game long, and the Malay it's 3 peaks throughout the game, and that's it. So that's the context there. It's the theory. It's theory crafting that we do. So you might absolutely be right, and that 80 is still way too much. But we will see where we end up. We are definitely now. Sorry, yeah, go ahead. I'm talking too long.
You're thinking. I see you're thinking very economically about this, but I think more like you can up with the same villagers, but it's not the economic aspect I'm thinking about. I'm thinking more about
Right.
of course you'll have the economic aspect as well, but the time and speed you get access to the next technologies is primarily the concern for me.
Yeah, that
So
is
it's
indeed
like the instant impact.
Yeah, that's true as well. Like the bonus kind of cuts two sides. But on the other hand, if you decide to go faster, you have with the same amount of villagers, you have essentially no economic bonus. So that's also a bit the trade-off that you have with Malai. With that said, 80% might still be way too much, but
Yeah.
we will see how it evolves.
Well, as long as you guys are open to changing it up,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
you said, changes again then next month, then I don't see a problem with trying it out.
Yeah.
Because as you said, it's just theory crafting from every one of us. So
Yeah.
for all you know, it might be perfectly balanced. We'll find out.
we will find out indeed. I'm very much looking forward to the next tournament because we hope to have the balance changes in by then.
That's right, you heard it here first, folks. We hope to have the balance patch out before the next tournament, which should be exciting because that way we get to see the difference between the previous Escape tournaments and this one. It is worth noting, though, that the Escape tournaments create a rather skewed perception of balance in the metagame due to the settings. For example, the civilization pool being very limited, the way the bans were set up, like the last time, there were 5 bans that you can only see the first 2 from your opponent. All of that combined with the maps does create a very skewed perception of balance. But that being said, from the individual games themselves, we've seen a lot of issues pop up, particularly with Malay, and that's something that we're always open to making changes on. So if 80% turns out to not be enough, that's something we'll certainly readdress. It's just that bonus, it's a very interesting one. There are a lot of aspects to it, and it's the type of thing where it could either turn out to be too strong or just right, so we'll have to see. Are there any other balance changes that you wanted to go over as well, Cysion, while we're still here?
Let me quickly take a look through the list. We have a short list of I think 10 changes roughly. There are some minor tweaks to Rattan archers. Actually one that's always a bit tricky. We're going back to the Portuguese here.
Yes.
The Arquebus upgrades.
Doubt agrees.
That's something that needs changes, more changes even.
Well, I mean, I played with the Portuguese against Doubt in the most recent tournament, and I remember, back in the day, you experimented with ballistics for siege onagers and onagers for Koreans, and I get the same kind of feeling with the bombard cannons. I feel like it's just too strong to actually give ballistics to such a long range and strong unit. So I personally think that bonus alone is just way too strong.
So the way it works is because it's not simply ballistics. That Spanish cannon galleons, they also have ballistics, but the projectiles also speed up enormously. We gave that a similar speed modifier to the Portuguese, and I think if we put that back to almost 0, I think we could maybe get it right. It's going to be nerfed again, so I think they have a speed modifier of a half, and we're going to bring that down to 0.25. So another 50% nerf on that. If it's enough, I don't know. I definitely remember the game that you're talking about, where you experimented with the Koreans, ballistics onagers. It was against Jordan, I think.
Good times.
On arena, yep, good times. It was a ridiculous game. But, I know the sentiment. But indeed, I think we can even go to 0 and or even remove the effect from heavy artillery and just give it to
hand cannoneers.
What's it called? Hand cannoneers. There's the one.
Well, the main concern is always in these closed types of maps, like Arena, for example. I don't think it's too overpowered on other maps, but you yourself, Bert, you're an Arena fan, I know. So unless you want to see Portuguese dominate the whole Arena scene, then I suggest changing it a little bit, at least, like you're planning to.
Yeah, we have a change coming up, so I hope it's enough. If not, it's still on our list. So and that's the
Sounds
good thing. Like I want to make clear to all the players and all the viewers that are watching at this point, we are now in a more the different pace of adding patches and doing balance changes. For African Kingdoms, it took almost a year before we had the first balance changes. That was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But now we already have the first one coming up, well, very, very soon. And we have more plans in short notice as well. So no worries if anything is in need of balance changes. We can react to it much faster than we used to.
Can I ask, is it planned to come out before the next tournament?
That is the plan, indeed. That is the plan.
Okay. Cool.
And we will make sure that all players will have the chance and the change log in advance.
All right.
To make sure nobody has a disadvantage or an advantage.
Cool.
Right, and then the most major changes will generally be in terms of the melee, basically the ones that we've discussed here. And then, yeah, we'll make sure that we have the patch notes and whatnot provided. Before we move on, were there any other immediate balance suggestions that either of you had for us? I guess we'll start with Viper there.
I mean, it's tricky. I haven't played too much that I can like say, okay, that's clearly OP, besides the things we talked about.
Right.
But I do feel like fire ships, for example, they just completely dominate on close maps.
Mm-hmm.
Especially against a feudal age player. But I mean, that makes sense as well at the same time. So, but besides that, I don't really know. There's I might have a different opinion in a few months where I played more with all the new civs and everything. But right now, I think the game seems to be in a good place, and I like and I enjoy a lot the experimentation, that process that we're going through right now. It's very exciting and a lot of fun. So I don't have any immediate suggestions.
Oh, I'm very, very glad to hear that. And this is the type of thing where we always encourage players to keep an open mind, as it took quite a while for 1.0C, the original CD balance, to get figured out. But that being said,
Exactly.
we're always iterating. One brief follow-up on that. Do you think that making like demolition ships and rafts slightly stronger versus just fire ships and not galleys, do you think that's the type of thing that would improve that water balance, or no?
I don't think the problem is demo. I don't know. It's really hard to tell without actually trying it out. But I don't think so. Like if you have, yeah, I mean, I'm not even gonna bother. I don't know, honestly.
Okay. So it's just
It's
basically
hard to tell.
the fire ships are a little bit strong, and then we'll have to look into that. TaToH, did you have any immediate balance suggestions in your mind?
I will say that what you said about the demos. I think they are good now, but maybe the biggest problem, as Viper said, is like if you go fast castle and you get the upgrades, the creation speed for the castle age units is almost half of the feudal units.
Right.
So that makes, like, with the same amount of dogs, you can produce a lot faster, and you cannot mass your enemy. Also, with getting like your units are way stronger, it makes like fast castle a really good option in some kind of maps. About the new civilization, I still say that battle elephants. Well, not battle elephants, because in Castle Age you don't see them too often.
Mm-hmm.
But in Imperial, they are too strong, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, that's very, very helpful, and that's something that we'll keep in mind. I'm glad that you brought up the creation speed thing, as you're right, it is a colossal difference. Galleys take so long to create in the feudal age, and then in the castle age, it's much easier to get that stuff out. So I guess those are areas that we can consider. By the way, guys, for those of you who are watching in the chat, at the end of the stream, after we say goodbye to TaToH and the Viper, Cysion and I will do a very quick Q&A. We'll take a couple of questions from the chat, so make sure to stick around for that. And now this brings us to the final segment of today's Fireside Balance chat. And this is something that we've been talking about a little bit already, is that the new expansions are, of course, not just balance changes and new technologies for the old civs, as well as new maps and campaigns, but also new civilizations. And this is something that is also quite difficult for us to get it feeling right, but I've been very happy so far with just the feel of the new civilizations. And we wanted to ask you two about the new civilizations that we've added. How do you like them so far? Do you feel like they're fun to play and that they fit with Age of Empires 2? And we'll ask that to we'll start that with TaToH.
Yeah, well, feel like the new civilization is something fresh because Malay, you can play it on two different ways. Like you can go with the same amount of villagers, for example, or just make a few more and then go in the same time. So it's a way different, two different ways of play it. Also, the Khmer, I really love the Khmer when I read the table, when I read the civilization of the table, and I feel like it was going to be super strong. But when I started to play against them, I found his weakness, and well, I don't like that anymore. But yeah, but all the new civilizations have something different that is now it's new. It's not something expected, and it does a really good combo with the old civilization. So I guess that, well, as much as I have played it already, I feel like they suit really good with the other expansion.
So, do you have a favorite civilization out of all the ones that we've added in the Forgotten, then the African Kingdoms and Rise of the Rajas? Out of all the new civs, do you have a favorite? And why?
I really like the Berbers.
Ah.
I feel like they are a really castle age civilization. Also, like you don't need a huge economy in Imperial because they don't have any super expensive unit that needs to invest a lot of resources on the technology. So they have it's very versatile because they have the generators as well. So you give your team a really good unit, trust units, and also it's like they have a really good team bonus, if I'm not wrong. Or this, what was the Berbers team bonus? I don't remember.
Oh, Genitours to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I really like when I have Indians in the team. I mean,
oh yeah,
because the team bonus of the Indians, they gave more damage to buildings, if I'm not wrong, to camels.
Yep.
So if you have all camels and you get all the average, it's really shit. And now even more because the camels are not longer ships, so camels are really strong.
All right. Well, yeah, the Berbers are definitely one of the civs that I really enjoy as well. So that brings me to the Viper. What do you think of the new civilizations that we've added, and do you have a favorite out of all of them?
I think all the new civs feel unique and fun to play in their own way, which is, I guess, the goal. And it's they're all. I have had fun with playing each and every one of them, and they all feel unique. So I really enjoy that. When it comes to favorite civs, I like the Burmese so far. I feel like they give you a lot of options with their civ bonuses and stuff. But I also think I would like to play Malians, but they're always banned, so I don't know if I'll ever get the chance. That's the problem. But I think I would enjoy playing Malians a lot as well. But hopefully at the next tournament I'll get to experiment more with them.
Yeah, Malians are good.
By the way, TaToH, for those of us who are in the chat, what is the Khmer's secret weakness?
Monks.
Ah, yeah.
It's stupid, that is monks. They don't have any answer against monks.
Yeah, that was a very conscious design decision. Cysion ended up putting in a lot of these, cute things in Rise of the Rajas to try and keep the balance nice and the mirror matches feeling good. He did things like play around with what civs get heresy and faith, as well as making sure that each of the new civs have halberdiers as a way to try and deal with the mirror match. And I think that monks are a space that people haven't explored that much in random online games versus civs like the Khmer, but that's something that they're very, very weak to. You don't want to lose any of those elephants to the monks, of course.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. I think that's basically everything that we wanted to ask you to. So we were wondering if either of you had any sort of closing comments before we wrap things up, starting with the Viper.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm really enjoying the work you guys are putting in and giving us these new civs and expansions, and it's a lot of fun to take part in that. I guess I can do some shameless advertising. Check out my stream and social media and stuff. It's Tyrant_TheViper. There you go. And that's about it.
Thank you so much for joining us today, The Viper. It is an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to keeping communication open to make sure that the Age of Empires expansions are not only as fun as possible, but also as balanced as possible. And I think I speak for everyone at FE when I say we're very much looking forward to the next tournament, too. So, TaToH, did you have any closing comments for us?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me here. It has been a pleasure. I think like all the content you are doing is super good, super new, super fresh, and all super. No, I really like them. I have so much fun playing the expansion, and it's like every time that people come to my stream, why are not you not playing on Bubbly all the time? I just always say the same. Like I really enjoy the new content, and I like to play the expansion. And yeah, it's even that sometimes it feels frustrating when you gain crash after crash, even more in the African kingdoms. Now it's more stable. I have so much fun playing with this, and yeah, I want to thank you all because you are doing a super good job.
Well, thank you so much. Hearing that you two have been enjoying all of the new civilizations and changes is just great, because that's the type of thing where we're dealing with a legacy here. Age of Empires 2 is a very old game, so getting everything feeling right is not an easy task. So I'm very glad to hear that some of the best Age of Empires 2 players out there are enjoying the new content. And again, thank you so much for joining us today, TaToH and Viper.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, and so this will bring us to the final segment of the stream, in which Cysion and I will be taking a couple of questions from the chat. Oh, also, wait, before you two hang up, or before you hang up, TaToH. Oh, never mind. Too late. I was gonna say he gets a shameless plug too. TaToH, of course, has his own Twitch channel and a YouTube channel as well, which you guys are welcome to check out. Anyway, on to the final segment. Cysion and I will be taking a couple of questions from the chat. This is going to be quick, approximately 10 minutes. And if you'd like us to answer your question, you can just tag like @ForgottenEmpires or @Cysion. In the meantime, while we're waiting for some awesome questions, Cysion, do you have anything that you wanted to say?
Not really. I think the first questions are already there, so we can jump straight into it. Ooh. That's a very, very good question. What are some of the weirdest bugs that appeared, or what are some weird connections that led to bugs in the game? So this is something that happens quite a bit. Like you touch one thing in the game, and then something seemingly unrelated all of a sudden breaks. That happens all the time, especially the engine is relatively old. It's very, very intertwined, very interconnected. You change A and then B all of a sudden does something weird. I actually kept a list for a while of like weird things that were happening. Things that happened like we've had many builds where units ran over water. Like Jesus builds. That happens way too much. And especially if it's moonwalking Jesus builds, that happens. Actually, I might even write a blog about that one day. Because
please, let's please do that. I've had so much fun with that.
I can't think of them at this point. My brain is a bit fried. It's been a busy day, but I will actually come back on that one because it happens so much. So
we promise you guys that's something we would be happy to revisit, as one of the best ways to deal with silly bugs is by laughing at them. Now, obviously, there are a lot of questions in the chat, so if we miss yours, we can't get to all of them. We're gonna try our best to snag as many as we can. My personal favorite bug, I mean, there are a lot of them. I like the moonwalking one. That one's just great. I also like the one where players' bases spawn inside each other. That was a long time bug in that we had since around Forgotten's release, which is you're playing on a map like Hillfort or something like that, and everyone's base spawned inside each other. The first time I saw that, I thought it was so funny. I was like, oh my god. New game mode where your town center is inside an enemy's town center. So that one I really enjoyed. God, I have to think about that. There's so many good ones. Yeah?
Yeah. Another question I see here, and I've seen that all over the community. Why don't Indians get battle elephants? A few reasons. First of all, this unit was introduced in specifically for the new civs, and we kind of tried to make each civ have a unique battle elephant. Every civ has a bonus for their battle elephants in some way or another to set them apart. And we kind of felt like if we go to Indians and give them a standard battle elephant, we kind of really change the civ. And that's something we don't really want to do for a thing that has been a civ that has been released almost 3 years ago by now. Like completely changing it by adding battle elephants, even though from a design point of view, history point of view, it feels right. We didn't really want to do it. I was like, no, Indians are done. These are the Indians that we put in the game, and that's it. So even though they would fit, we're just not going to do it. It's a unique thing for Rise of the Rajas, and that's how it's going to stay.
All right, let's see. Any other questions? Philip asks about spectator improvements like spectator overlay. We're definitely working on improvements to spectator modes. So those are the type of things that we're hoping we can do at some point. Let's see.
What are your favorite civ combinations?
Oh, I like that one.
That's a good one. I like that one. It's a softball question, but I'll take it. It's very tricky actually, because the way I play most of my Age of Empires game is on LAN parties, and you can kind of do like crazy shit on LAN parties. It's not all that serious, and sometimes you feel like, oh, let's make a team that is just very good at infantry. Then you think, okay, what are the infantry civs? And then you start combining Slavs and Goths and whatever else is there left. Or like you make the ultimate exploration civ: Portuguese, Vietnamese, Burmese, Mongols. And those are actually quite fun combinations. Other than that, I find every combinations with Saracens in them also quite daunting. Like if you get a Saracen player on your team and they can get Mamelukes, I find that so strong. That also because I can't play with Saracens at all. So for me, it's nice to have a good civ on the team that I don't have to control, because I can't control them anyways. And Portuguese. A team with the Portuguese is always good. With the free cartography, that's just my favorite team bonus in the game, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Cysion here in saying that I am always happy to have a Portuguese teammate for any reason whatsoever. Not only is it fun to see how your friends scout, there's always the guy who has his scout idle for most of the game, and then he ends up just tasking it all the way across the map, and that's most of the scouting you'll see. It's also just very useful in general, and it just feels like a clean bonus. I am also going to have to go with TaToH here and say that I really enjoy any sort of like wonky team bonus combinations. Like you have the Indians with the camels getting extra attack versus buildings, and you do that with things like the Berbers. I always find really funny. And then the Saracens, their archers deal more damage to buildings. I also find really funny with the Mayans, and I think that's probably one of my favorites. And then I also, of course, just enjoy having the Berbers on my team because I like Genitours. So those are some of our favorite civ combos.
Not a good question there. I'm not sure how much more we're going to take. There's a lot of questions there. Sorry if we are missing yours. So what is your favorite civ and which did you come up with? So I'm the lead designer, so I kind of do all of them. That kind of answers the questions. And I think at the moment the Malay are my favorite of the new ones. The Byzantines will always be my favorite civ, but the Malay are definitely a top contender at this point.
So the Ethiopians personally have been growing on me as a civ that it is slowly becoming maybe my favorite civ out of all of them. I have nothing but appreciation for this. It just feels so crisp to play. I love their set of bonuses. I think that the Shoto Warrior is not nearly as strong as it seems, but it's that type of unit that in the right situation, if you use it very well, feels so great. I love all their techs, their bonuses, the strategies that open up when you take advantage of the 100 food and 100 gold you get through advancing. I love their tech trio of torsion engines. Torsion engines is so satisfying when you're like ramming a house and you accidentally kill the house behind it, or you just eat through a huge layer of walls. And now it works with heavy scorpions. I'm like a kid in a candy store when I play them. I'm also a big fan, of course, of the Britons, the Byzantines, and the Magyars. But man, the Ethiopians are fun.
Glad to hear. Oh, just to prove that we also take hard questions, are you going to do something about the performance of the game? Yes, there are very exciting changes coming up in 5.2. I don't use that word lightly. I'm very excited about them. I can't detail them yet, but they are good. They are good changes coming up. They are in progress at the moment, and once the beta for 5.2 goes live, we will see what that is. But I definitely want to compliment Skybox already on the work they did there. But there are performance changes specifically for multiplayer coming up in the next patch.
We don't want to hype it up to the point where people have ridiculous expectations, but
No,
I will say, but in my testing, it's a massive improvement, and frankly a little jarring. I've started screwing up my boar lures and whatnot because the game is running so nicely. So the hope is that when the changes are ready, that it goes over really nicely. And basically, we're reading all your feedback. We know where the priorities are. Implementing these type of things is unfortunately not as easy as it otherwise ought to be, but it looks like internally that we're making some significant headway in terms of performance.
Yeah. When we can expect the 5.2 to drop, we don't know yet, but we are now in a steady state of patching the game, and we are going to continue that for a while. So yeah, I can't give a date, but it's not going to be half a year. Definitely not. We will keep you posted. That's the thing. Also, I don't want to overhype people and like predict the second coming of Christ. But I have to say, I was very happy with the first tests of the changes so far.
Let's see. Another. We probably won't be able to take too many of these, so I'm just going to really quickly answer this one. Geo Waypoint asks, how much does the FE team play themselves? I say that one of the strengths of this company, and one of the reasons why I like them so much, is that they actually are all fans of the game and actually play the game. That's huge, and it's something that you don't see in a lot of other industries or major companies, is that the people that work there are very qualified, but they don't have that passion, and they don't actually play the game. It's just work to them. But a lot of the people at Forgotten Empires, not everyone, but a good chunk of them, at least the people who do like balance and design and whatnot, are fairly active players. The QA guys are obviously insanely active, and they're playing the game all day, and not just tinkering in the scenario editor, just playing full games, making sure that everything is all stable. So, and then also occasionally,
Yeah, just to add on that, I think pretty much everybody has at least 1,000 hours on the game, at least. So, so some have 2,000, and I think some even have 3,000 hours. So we definitely play it.
Yeah, I'm getting there. 2,683. Slow. We're on the way. Cysion, should we grab like one more question? What's the plan?
Let me see. Let me scroll up. More balance suggestions. I didn't go over all the balance changes, but they will be posted quite soon. The changes that we have in mind for 5.2. But essentially, they are aligning what the community is feeling. At least that's the impression we have at this point.
Oh wait, by Geo Waypoint, by this build, do you mean 5.1, or do you mean the top secret 5.2 beta? Yeah, the thing is that internally we end up swapping builds all the time. So
Yeah, we have a
5.2,
new.
there are a lot of 5.2 builds. So overall, we've been playing. We have to ask the QA guys exactly how many hours we spent in that, but we've played a lot of 5.2, and then on 5.1, obviously, I probably had like 100-ish hours. I'm probably going to estimate this horribly wrong. 100-ish hours in 5.1. I play
That's
this
the thing,
game
we have a new.
every day.
Yeah, we have a new build every day, so it's kind of hard to judge per build basis. Say Brencha asks, could you say if you guys have it as a working? Oh, I think I missed parts of his question there. That was okay. I lost half of that question. Sorry. Let's see if there's another one. Sorry. Oh, how do you get hired at FE? At this point, we have a contact page. If you have a CV laying around, just send it. We're currently not actively looking, but we recently, I think as recently as yesterday, we hired somebody. So if you have a CV laying around and you feel like working in depth, just send it to us. Who knows? Who knows what happens?
Yep. And again, we're reading all your balanced feedback. So basically, every time someone posts a comment or thread on like Reddit, for example, or if you leave us a message on like the FE Facebook page, I'm reading everything and I'm always chatting with people. So if you want to make Britons have their trebuchets have global range, I've read the suggestion, and we're always looking for more feedback. So and I don't know how much we can talk about the HD lobby system, but that's something that, of course, we're aware of, and I would like to see something like
First things
password.
first.
Yeah.
First multiplayer performance. That's a top dog at the moment. So
Yes.
that's the one that we're working on now, and of course we stay focused on balance changes as well, and campaign fixes as well. I don't think we have a lot of campaign players in the chat right now, but
Right.
they are definitely important as well.
Right. So bug fixes, polish, and whatnot, and we'll see about everything else.
Oh, one more question that I feel like answering, because I think Fudgemellows asked it for quite some times. Anything can be done for Vikings on land maps. So we did one change with the launch of Rise of the Rajas. We gave Vikings a actually when in the Forgotten came out, Chieftains. The Chieftains upgrade, which gave Berserks an extra bonus against cavalry. And we expanded that to all their infantry. So if you make champions, Viking champions, which are quite good, pikemen, which are okay-ish, or berserkers, they all now have a bonus against cavalry. So it's a little nice bonus for Vikings. I don't know if it makes them a top contender on land maps, probably not, but we also don't want to make them like a top dog. I mean, that's not how the Vikings are designed to be, and that's how they will never be. But I believe with these changes, they're at least not a complete rollover or screw over on land maps.
Yep. And then
Okay.
Daburndo, basically just it takes a lot of iteration and testing to keep the game fresh while keeping it balanced with new civs. We're looking for diversity. Yep. So I think that's basically all the questions that we'll be taking for now, right?
I think so. People in the chat asking campaigns. What are campaigns?
They're pretty fun.
They are pretty fun. Actually, I played all the campaigns myself on hard, and I have to say some of the missions are pretty damn good, and pretty damn challenging. So if you would ever feel bored of Age of Empires 2, you might give the campaigns a try. Who knows? Who knows? All right, I think that's it for tonight. I would like to thank Viper and TaToH again for coming on and chatting here with us. I'd like to thank all the people for turning up for the questions and for playing the game and enjoying it.
Yeah, as always, we really appreciate the support and all you guys' feedback. Carrying on the legacy of such an old game is a difficult process, but one that we're all extremely passionate to have that opportunity. And yeah, it's just always great to see things to continue to get better. That's the thing that I really enjoy, is that everyone here is super passionate. From both the people who work here at Forgotten Empires to also all of you in the chat. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we just are looking forward to keeping the communication open and bringing you guys news as it comes. You should hear about 5.2 when it's ready, as well as the upcoming balance pages changes in the not too distant future. So keep your eyes peeled, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. One more thing, actually, if we haven't turned off yet,
We have not.
I see a lot of people saying their bye-byes as well. If you have any suggestions or ideas, or like, do you want more of this? What would you like to see in streams from us? What would you like to see from the developers? Like communicating with you guys, let us know. We would love to hear, because I mean, we do these things for you guys, not for any other reason. So let us know.
Yep, we're always reading your feedback, and yeah, we're looking forward to bringing you the next sort of stream and whatnot, keeping that communication rolling. Okay, so I suppose that's it for the day. Once again,
that's it for real now. For real now. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all soon.